The morning sun cast long shadows across the grounds of Gatcombe Park as Princess and stood by her kitchen window, watching her horses graze peacefully in the distant paddocks. At 74, the Princess Royal had seen countless storms weather the monarchy, but nothing quite like what was unfolding now. Her weathered hands gripped the ceramic mug tightly, steam rising from her morning tea as she contemplated the decision that had been weighing heavily on her mind for weeks. The phone had been ringing incessantly since dawn. Reporters, palace officials, and well-meaning friends all seeking her thoughts on the latest developments surrounding her nephew Prince William and his wife Catherine, and had always prided herself on staying above the fray, letting her actions speak louder than words. But recent events had pushed even her legendary patience to its breaking point. She moved away from the window and settled into her favorite armchair, the same one where she had conducted countless interviews over the years, always measured, always diplomatic. Today felt different. Today, she could no longer remain silent while watching two people she deeply respected being subjected to what she considered an unprecedented campaign of criticism and speculation. The troubles had begun months earlier, though, and recognized the seeds had been planted long before that. Catherine's temporary withdrawal from public duties due to health concerns had sparked a media-feeding frenzy that seemed to grow more voracious by the day. Wild theories and unfounded speculation filled newspaper columns and social media feeds, each more outrageous than the last. Some suggested marital problems, others hinted at mysterious illnesses, and a few even proposed elaborate conspiracy theories about the future of the monarchy itself. William, meanwhile, had been carrying an enormous burden. As heir to the throne, he was expected to maintain his demanding schedule of royal duties while simultaneously supporting his wife through her recovery and shielding their three young children from the relentless media attention. And had watched her nephew struggle with this impossible balancing act, seeing the strain etched in his face during the few family gatherings they had managed to attend together. What particularly galled and was the stark contrast between the public perception and the reality she witnessed behind closed doors. She had seen how William tenderly cared for Catherine during her most difficult moments, how he had reorganized his entire life to ensure she had the space and time needed for her recovery. She had watched Catherine's quiet determination as she focused on her health while maintaining her deep commitment to her family and her future role as queen consort. The Princess Royal had always been known for her no-nonsense approach to royal duties. Throughout her decades of service, she had earned a reputation as one of the hardest-working members of the royal family, someone who preferred action to words and substance over style. Her appointment schedule was legendary among palace staff, with some years seeing her complete more engagements than any other royal. This work ethic and practical approach had earned her respect both within the royal household and among the British public. But Anne's relationship with William and Catherine went beyond mere professional admiration. She had watched William grow from a shy young boy devastated by his mother's death into a confident man who had learned to balance his public duties with his private happiness. When he married Catherine in 2011 and had been one of the first family members to welcome the new princess, recognizing in her a kindred spirit who understood the importance of duty and service. Over the years, and had become something of a mentor to Catherine, sharing her insights about navigating the complexities of royal life while maintaining personal integrity. They had bonded over their shared love of country life, their commitment to their charitable work, and their understanding that royal duty sometimes required personal sacrifice, and had watched Catherine evolve from a nervous newlywed into a confident and capable future queen, never losing sight of what truly mattered. The turning point came during a particularly difficult week when the media speculation reached fever pitch. Stories appeared claiming that Catherine's absence was causing friction within the royal family, that senior royals were concerned about her commitment to her duties, and that there were questions about her fitness for her future role as queen, and had read these reports with growing indignation, knowing them to be not just false but cruel distortions of reality. That evening, She had called William directly. Their conversation lasted nearly an hour, during which her nephew had finally allowed his carefully maintained composure to crack slightly. He spoke of his frustration with the endless speculation, his anger at seeing his wife's character questioned, and his concern about the impact all of this was having on their children. Most importantly, he expressed his gratitude for the support he had received from family members, particularly Anne, whose steady presence had been a source of strength during the most challenging moments. It was during this call that Anne made her decision. She had remained silent long enough. The time had come to speak publicly about what she had witnessed, to set the record straight about two people she admired enormously, and to remind the world what real royal service looked like. The decision did not come lightly, and had built her reputation on discretion, on letting her work speak for itself, rather than engaging in public commentary about family matters. She had seen too many royal statements backfire, too many well-intentioned interventions create more problems than they solved. But this situation was different. This was about defending people she cared about against unfair attacks, about protecting the institution she had served faithfully for over 5 decades. She spent several days crafting her thoughts, consulting with trusted advisors, and considering every possible consequence of speaking out. Her private secretary, who had worked with her for nearly 20 years, had never seen the Princess Royal so determined about a public statement. Usually, and preferred brief, factual responses to media inquiries. This time, she was preparing something much more substantial and personal. The morning of her decision to go public, and had breakfast with her husband, Sir Timothy Lawrence, discussing her plans one final time. Timothy, himself a former naval officer who understood duty and loyalty, had been supportive of her decision from the beginning. He knew his wife well enough to recognize when her mind was made up, and he could see that staying silent was causing her genuine distress. As she prepared to make her statement and reflected on the broader implications of her decision, she was not just defending William and Catherine as individuals, but making a statement about the values she believed the monarchy should embody. In her view, the royal family's strength had always come from its commitment to service, its dedication to duty above personal comfort, and its ability to adapt while maintaining core principles. The media landscape had changed dramatically during her decades of service. The respectful distance that had once existed between the press and the royal family had eroded, replaced by an insatiable appetite for intimate details and sensational stories. Social media had accelerated this process, creating an environment where rumors could spread faster than facts and where speculation often became accepted as truth, and understood that her statement would likely generate its own wave of media attention. But she had concluded that silence was no longer an option. Too much damage was being done to people she cared about and to the institution she had devoted her life to serving. The time had come to speak truth to power, even if that power was wielded by newspapers and social media platforms rather than traditional authorities. Her decision to support William and Catherine publicly was rooted in her first-hand knowledge of their character and commitment. She had watched them navigate previous challenges with grace and determination, always putting their royal duties and their family responsibilities ahead of personal comfort. She had seen their genuine dedication to the causes they championed and their authentic connection with the people they served. As she sat in her study that evening, preparing for what would undoubtedly be one of the most significant public statements of her career, Princess Anne felt a sense of calm resolve. Tomorrow, she would break her characteristic silence and stand firmly behind two people who embodied everything she believed the modern monarchy should represent. The consequences would unfold as they would, but she knew she was doing the right thing for the right reasons at the right time. The following morning arrived with unusual activity at Gatcombe Park. Princess Anne had made the decision to hold an impromptu press gathering, something virtually unprecedented in her long career of public service. Her staff had worked through the night, coordinating with media outlets, palace communications teams, and security personnel to arrange what would become one of the most watched royal statements in recent memory, and stood before her bedroom mirror, adjusting her simple pearl earrings and straightening the collar of her navy blazer. She had deliberately chosen understated attire, wanting the focus to remain on her words rather than her appearance. Her reflection showed a woman who had lived through decades of royal duty, someone who had seen the monarchy weather countless storms and emerge stronger. Today, she intended to be part of that strengthening process. The library at Gatcombe Park had been transformed into a makeshift press room. Cameras lined the walls while reporters from major news organizations filled the available seating. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation, as few could remember the last time Princess and had called such a gathering to make a personal statement about family matters. At precisely 10 o'clock, and entered the room with her characteristic composed stride. She took her place behind a simple wooden podium, her hands resting lightly on the prepared speech she had written and rewritten multiple times over the past week. The room fell silent as she looked up at the assembled journalists, her steady gaze meeting theirs with unwavering confidence. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice clear and measured, "I have asked you here today because I believe the time has come for me to speak directly about matters that have been the subject of considerable public discussion in recent months. As someone who has served this country and this institution for over 50 years, I feel compelled to address the unfair and often inaccurate portrayal of two people I know well and respect enormously," and paused, allowing her words to register before continuing. "Prince William and Princess Catherine have demonstrated time and again their unwavering commitment to their royal duties and their genuine care for the people they serve. I have had the privilege of working alongside them, of observing their dedication firsthand, and of witnessing their grace under pressure that would challenge anyone." The Princess Royal went on to detail specific examples of William and Catherine's service, drawing from her personal observations and experiences. She spoke of William's thoughtful approach to modernizing royal engagements while respecting tradition, his genuine interest in the people he met during official visits, and his careful balance of accessibility with the dignity required of his position. Regarding Catherine, Anne's words carried particular warmth and conviction. She described watching the Princess of Wales grow into her role with remarkable skill and authenticity, never losing sight of the human element in royal duty. And recounted instances where Catherine had gone beyond what was expected, showing genuine compassion and making lasting connections with people from all walks of life. Princess Catherine has faced challenges in recent months that would test anyone's resolve, and continued, her voice carrying a subtle edge of protective determination. The speculation and commentary surrounding her temporary step back from public duties has been not only inappropriate, but deeply unfair. Health matters, whether physical or otherwise, deserve privacy and understanding, not endless conjecture and criticism, and addressed directly the rumors and theories that had circulated about Catherine's absence from public view. Without revealing specific medical details, she made clear that the Princess of Wales had been dealing with legitimate health concerns that required time and space for proper treatment and recovery. She emphasized that taking such time was not only reasonable, but responsible, particularly given Catherine's long-term duties and responsibilities. "I have watched Princess Catherine navigate this challenging period with remarkable strength and dignity," and stated firmly, "Her priority has rightly been her health and her family, as it should be for anyone facing similar circumstances." The suggestion that this represents any lack of commitment to her royal duties is not only wrong, but reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of what real dedication looks like. The Princess Royal then turned her attention to the media coverage surrounding the situation, speaking with unusual directness about what she saw as irresponsible reporting. She acknowledged the legitimate public interest in royal activities while drawing clear distinctions between appropriate coverage and intrusive speculation. "The British people deserve accurate reporting about their royal family," and said, her tone becoming more pointed. "They do not deserve endless speculation presented as fact or theories that serve no purpose other than to satisfy curiosity at the expense of real people's privacy and well-being. Prince William and Princess Catherine are not characters in a drama for public entertainment. They are dedicated public servants who deserve the same basic respect and consideration we would extend to anyone facing personal challenges. Anne's statement included a detailed recounting of William's response to his wife's health situation, painting a picture of a devoted husband who had reorganized his professional life to provide necessary support while continuing to fulfill his own royal obligations. She described his careful attention to their children's needs during a difficult time, his coordination with other family members to ensure royal duties continued seamlessly, and his unwavering support for Catherine's recovery process. Prince William has shown exactly the kind of leadership this country needs, and declared, "He has balanced his personal responsibilities with his public duties, never allowing one to suffer at the expense of the other. His handling of these challenging months demonstrates maturity, wisdom, and the deep sense of duty that will serve him well as our future king." The Princess Royal also addressed the impact of the intense media scrutiny on William and Catherine's 3 children. While acknowledging that royal children must expect some level of public attention, she argued forcefully that the current situation had crossed reasonable boundaries. Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis are children who deserve to grow up with some measure of normalcy and protection from adult controversies, and stated with particular emphasis. The constant speculation about their parents affects them directly, and I believe we all have a responsibility to consider their well-being when discussing these matters publicly. And spent considerable time during her statement highlighting specific examples of William and Catherine's charitable work and public service, drawing from her personal knowledge of their behind-the-scenes efforts. She described Catherine's deep involvement with early childhood development initiatives, her genuine expertise in areas like mental health and addiction recovery, and her innovative approaches to using royal platforms for meaningful social impact. Similarly, she praised William's environmental advocacy, his work with homeless populations, and his efforts to modernize mental health discussions within traditionally stoic institutions like the military and emergency services, and emphasized that these were not superficial royal patronages, but genuine commitments backed by substantial personal involvement and real expertise. These are not people going through the motions of royal duty, and explained. These are individuals who have found meaningful ways to use their positions for genuine good, who bring real passion and knowledge to their work, and who have earned the respect of experts in their chosen fields of service. The Princess Royal also used her statement to address what she saw as a concerning trend toward treating royal family members as entertainment rather than public servants. She spoke about the difference between legitimate public interest and voyeuristic intrusion, arguing that the current media environment made it increasingly difficult for royal family members to serve effectively. Public service requires trust between those who serve and those they serve, and observed. When every action is subjected to endless analysis and criticism, when privacy is considered irrelevant, and when personal struggles become public entertainment, it becomes much more difficult to do the work that really matters. Prince William and Princess Catherine deserve better, and frankly, the British people deserve better as well. As her statement neared its conclusion, Anne's tone became more personal and direct. She spoke as someone who had observed the monarchy evolve over decades, who had seen both its strengths and weaknesses, and who understood the delicate balance required for effective royal service in the modern era. "I've had the privilege of working in royal service for over 50 years, and concluded, I have seen this institution adapt and evolve while maintaining its core purpose of service to the British people. Prince William and Princess Catherine represent the very best of what modern royal service can be. They deserve our support, our understanding, and our respect as they navigate both their public duties and their private challenges." The room remained completely silent as Anne finished speaking, the weight of her unprecedented public defense settling over the assembled journalists. For someone known for her reluctance to engage in public commentary about family matters, her detailed and passionate statement represented a remarkable departure from decades of careful discretion. The implications of her words would reverberate far beyond that library at Gatcombe Park, potentially reshaping public perception and media coverage of the future king and queen. The immediate aftermath of Princess Anne's statement sent shockwaves through media organizations, royal circles, and public opinion across Britain and beyond. Within hours of her press conference, major news outlets were scrambling to analyze every word of her unprecedented intervention, while social media platforms buzzed with reactions ranging from surprise to admiration to criticism. Back at Gatcombe Park, and retreated to her private study, deliberately avoiding the television screens and newspaper headlines that she knew would dominate coverage for days to come. She had said what needed to be said, and now the consequences would unfold as they would. Her private secretary fielded dozens of interview requests from around the world, all of which declined with polite but firm refusals to elaborate further on her statement. The reaction from Buckingham Palace was swift and carefully measured. While no official statement was issued, palace sources speaking on background indicated that senior royals had been informed of Anne's intentions beforehand and had not attempted to dissuade her. This suggested a level of family coordination that surprised many royal watchers, who had expected the palace to distance itself from such a direct intervention in ongoing controversies. King Charles, who had maintained his own careful silence about his son and daughter-in-law situation, was reportedly pleased with his sister's statement while remaining officially neutral on the matter. Palace insiders suggested that the king viewed Anne's intervention as a family member speaking from personal knowledge rather than an official royal position, allowing him to maintain his own diplomatic stance while benefiting from her public support of William and Catherine. The media response was immediate and intense. Several major newspapers that had been among the most aggressive in their speculation about Catherine's absence found themselves forced to defend their coverage in light of Anne's pointed criticisms. Editorial meetings at newsrooms across Fleet Street reportedly involved heated discussions about how to respond to such direct criticism from one of the most respected members of the royal family. Some publications doubled down on their previous coverage, arguing that public figures must expect scrutiny and that Anne's intervention was itself inappropriate. Others began a more reflective examination of their own reporting, with several columnists acknowledging that the speculation had perhaps gone too far. The debate about press responsibility and royal privacy, which had simmered for months, exploded into full public view. Public opinion polls conducted in the days following Anne's statement showed significant shifts in how people viewed the situation. Support for William and Catherine increased markedly, particularly among older demographics who held Princess Anne in high regard. Many respondents indicated that her intervention had caused them to reconsider their previous assumptions about the couple's situation. The international reaction was equally significant. Royal correspondents from around the world descended on London to cover what many described as the most dramatic royal intervention in family matters since Princess Diana's death. European monarchies, which often dealt with similar media pressures, watched closely to see how the British approach might influence coverage of their own royal families. Meanwhile, William and Catherine themselves were dealing with the unexpected spotlight that Anne's statement had brought to their situation. While they were grateful for her support, they also recognized that the increased attention meant their return to public duties would be even more closely scrutinized than before. Catherine, who had been making steady progress in her recovery, found herself facing new pressures about when and how to resume her royal engagements. William reached out to his aunt personally the day after her statement, expressing his gratitude while also acknowledging the potential complications her intervention might create. And, characteristically direct, told him that she had weighed those considerations carefully and remained convinced that speaking out had been necessary. She emphasized that her primary concern was protecting him and Catherine from what she saw as unfair treatment, regardless of any personal consequences for herself. The relationship between Anne The broader royal establishment became a subject of intense speculation in the following weeks. Some royal commentators suggested that her statement represented a new willingness among senior royals to defend family members more directly against media criticism. Others argued that it was an isolated incident driven by Anne's particularly close relationship with William and Catherine rather than a broader shift in royal communication strategy. Behind the scenes, palace communications teams found themselves dealing with a fundamentally altered media landscape. The traditional approach of never complain, never explain had been challenged by Anne's detailed and passionate defense of her nephew and his wife. This created both opportunities and complications for how the royal family might handle future controversies. Catherine's charitable organizations and patronages reported increased public support and donations in the weeks following Anne's statement. Several charity leaders who worked closely with the Princess of Wales spoke publicly about her genuine commitment and expertise, providing additional validation for Anne's characterizations of Catherine's work. This professional support from outside the royal family helped reinforce the credibility of Anne's defense. The statement also had significant implications for how royal health matters might be handled in the future. Anne's insistence that privacy should be respected while still acknowledging the legitimate public interest in royal activities suggested a possible middle ground between complete secrecy and excessive disclosure. Royal medical advisors and communications experts began discussing how this balance might be maintained for future situations. Educational institutions and think tanks specializing in media ethics found themselves analyzing Anne's statement as a case study in celebrity privacy, public interest, and responsible journalism. Several universities organized symposiums examining the broader implications of her intervention for how public figures and the media should interact in the digital age. The economic impact of the controversy and Anne's response also became apparent in unexpected ways. Tourism to royal sites had declined during the height of the speculation about Catherine's absence, but began recovering after Anne's statement helped restore confidence in the stability and dignity of the royal family. Merchandise featuring supportive messages for William and Catherine experienced surprising popularity. Anne's own public profile was significantly elevated by her intervention, though this was clearly not her intention. Opinion polls showed dramatic increases in her approval ratings, with many respondents expressing admiration for her willingness to defend family members despite her usual preference for staying out of public controversies. This newfound prominence was somewhat ironic for someone who had built her reputation on quiet, consistent service rather than high-profile statements. The legal community also took notice of Anne's statement, particularly her comments about media responsibility and the rights of public figures to privacy during health crises. Several barristers specializing in privacy law suggested that her intervention might influence how similar cases would be handled in the future, potentially providing precedent for other public figures facing intrusive coverage. Fashion and lifestyle publications found themselves reconsidering their approach to covering Catherine's absence and eventual return. Anne's emphasis on substance over style and royal service prompted some editors to shift their focus toward the Princess of Wales's charitable work and public service rather than her appearance and fashion choices. The international diplomatic community watched Anne's intervention with particular interest, as it demonstrated how modern monarchies might balance tradition with contemporary media realities. Several foreign diplomats reportedly described her statement as a masterclass in defending institutional dignity while acknowledging legitimate public concerns. Religious leaders also weighed in on the broader themes raised by Anne's statement, particularly regarding compassion, privacy, and the treatment of individuals facing health challenges. Several prominent clergy members used their platforms to discuss the moral dimensions of public scrutiny and the responsibility of communities to support rather than exploit those dealing with personal difficulties. As weeks passed, it became clear that Anne's intervention had fundamentally altered the conversation around William and Catherine's situation. The focus gradually shifted from speculation about their private lives to discussion of their public service and future roles. This transformation validated Anne's belief that speaking out had been necessary to redirect attention toward what really mattered. The long-term implications of Princess Anne's unprecedented statement continued to unfold, but its immediate impact was undeniable. She had successfully redirected public attention away from harmful speculation toward the genuine service and dedication she had witnessed firsthand from William and Catherine. In doing so, she had also established new expectations for how royal family members might defend each other against unfair criticism while maintaining the dignity and discretion expected of their positions. 3 months after Princess Anne's remarkable intervention, the full impact of her decision to break her silence had become unmistakably clear. The royal family's dynamics had shifted subtly, but significantly, with a new understanding that sometimes speaking out was not only appropriate but necessary to protect the institution and the people who served it with dedication and dignity. Catherine's gradual return to public duties had been met with a dramatically different reception than anyone had anticipated before Anne's statement. Instead of intrusive speculation about her health or appearance, media coverage focused primarily on her charitable work, her interactions with the public, and her professional contributions to the causes she championed. The shift in tone was so pronounced that several royal correspondents privately acknowledged that Anne's intervention had fundamentally changed how they approached their reporting. The Princess of Wales's first major public appearance following her recovery was at a children's hospital in Manchester, where she launched a new mental health initiative for young patients. The event, carefully planned and expertly executed, showcased exactly the kind of substantive royal engagement that Anne had emphasized in her statement. Catherine's genuine expertise in child development was evident as she engaged with young patients, their families, and medical professionals with the kind of informed compassion that had originally drawn Anne's admiration. William, meanwhile, had found his own public standing significantly strengthened by his aunt's defense. His handling of royal duties during Catherine's absence was now widely recognized as exemplary rather than questioned as inadequate. Major newspapers that had previously criticized his approach to balancing family and royal responsibilities published editorials praising his dedication to both his wife and his public service obligations. The broader royal family had also benefited from the new atmosphere Anne's intervention had created. Other senior royals reported feeling more confident about supporting each other publicly when faced with unfair criticism, knowing that such solidarity would be viewed as appropriate rather than inappropriate interference in media coverage. This represented a significant evolution in royal communication strategy, though one that remained carefully calibrated to maintain dignity and discretion. King Charles had privately expressed his gratitude to his sister for her timely intervention, though he maintained his policy of not commenting publicly on family matters. Palace sources suggested that the king viewed Anne's statement as having strengthened the monarchy's position by demonstrating that its members would defend each other against unfair attacks, while continuing to serve the public with dedication and professionalism. The media landscape itself had undergone notable changes in response to Anne's criticism of irresponsible speculation. Several major publications had implemented new guidelines for covering royal health matters, establishing clearer distinctions between legitimate public interest and intrusive conjecture. These policy changes were not universal, but they represented meaningful progress toward more responsible reporting standards. Academic institutions had embraced Anne's intervention as a case study in modern royal communications, with several universities incorporating analysis of her statement into courses on public relations, media ethics, and constitutional monarchy. The consensus among scholars was that she had successfully navigated an extremely delicate situation by speaking with authority based on personal knowledge, while avoiding the pitfalls that had trapped other royals who had attempted similar interventions in the past. The international royal community had also taken notice of the British approach to defending family members against media criticism. Several European monarchies had quietly adopted similar strategies when faced with their own media challenges, with palace officials from other countries reportedly seeking advice from British royal communications experts about implementing comparable defensive measures. And herself had returned to her characteristic preference for letting her work speak louder than her words. But the respect and admiration generated by her intervention had elevated her public profile in ways that enhanced her ability to support the charitable causes she championed. Organizations she patronized reported increased public attention and support, suggesting that her principled stand had enhanced rather than compromised her effectiveness as a working royal. The economic impact of the controversy and its resolution had also become apparent in measurable ways. Tourism to royal sites had not only recovered, but exceeded previous levels, with visitors frequently expressing admiration for how the royal family had handled the challenging situation. The British monarchy's global brand, which had been somewhat tarnished by months of speculation and criticism, had been significantly strengthened by the demonstration of family loyalty and principled leadership. Catherine's charitable organizations had experienced unprecedented growth in both support and donations following Anne's defense of her work. The Princess of Wales's initiatives in early childhood development, mental health advocacy, and addiction recovery had gained new credibility and attention, validating Anne's emphasis on substance over speculation. Professional colleagues in these fields had praised Catherine's genuine expertise and commitment, providing independent confirmation of Anne's characterizations. The legal implications of Anne's intervention had also continued to evolve, with privacy lawyers noting increased judicial willingness to consider the impact of media speculation on public figures' well-being. Several court cases involving celebrity privacy had referenced Anne's statement as evidence that even public figures deserved reasonable protection from intrusive coverage during health crises. William and Catherine's children had perhaps benefited most from the changed atmosphere surrounding their family. The reduction in speculative coverage had allowed them greater privacy during their formative years, while the increased respect for their parents had created a more positive environment for their own eventual introduction to public life when the time came. The relationship between the royal family and the press had evolved into something more balanced and sustainable. While tensions certainly remained, Anne's intervention had established new norms for how conflicts between royal privacy and public interest might be navigated. Her approach of speaking directly and factually while maintaining dignity had provided a template for future communications that other royal family members could follow when necessary. Public opinion research conducted 6 months after Anne's statement showed lasting changes in how British citizens viewed both the royal family and media coverage of royal affairs. Support for the monarchy had increased significantly, particularly among demographics that had previously been skeptical about royal relevance in modern Britain. Many respondents specifically cited Anne's intervention as evidence that the royal family could adapt and respond appropriately to contemporary challenges. The statement had also influenced how other public figures and their representatives handled media criticism and speculation. Celebrity publicists and crisis communications experts had studied Anne's approach as a masterclass in defending clients while maintaining credibility and dignity. Her emphasis on factual correction rather than emotional response had become a model for effective public advocacy. As princess and stood in her garden at Gatcombe Park one year after her unprecedented statement, watching the same horses graze in the same paddocks, she reflected on the journey that had led to that crucial decision and its continuing consequences. The morning tea ritual remained unchanged, but the world around the royal family had evolved in ways that she believed strengthened rather than weakened the institution she had served for so long. Her phone still rang regularly, though now the calls were more often expressions of gratitude than requests for comment. William and Catherine had both thanked her repeatedly for her intervention, acknowledging that it had fundamentally changed the trajectory of their public lives in positive ways. They had emerged from a challenging period stronger, more respected, and better positioned to serve effectively in their future roles as king and queen. The decision to speak out had required and to step outside her comfort zone and risk criticism for abandoning her usual discretion. But The results had validated her belief that sometimes silence was not golden, that defending people you respected against unfair treatment was worth the potential personal cost, and that the monarchy's strength came not from avoiding controversy, but from handling it with wisdom, dignity, and principled leadership, and understood that her intervention would likely be remembered as a defining moment in her long career of public service, though that had never been her intention. She had simply seen people she cared about being treated unfairly and had decided to use her voice and credibility to set the record straight. The broader implications had unfolded naturally from that fundamental decision to speak truth based on personal knowledge and deep conviction. Looking toward the future, and felt confident that the royal family was better positioned than ever to serve the British people effectively while maintaining the human dignity that made their service meaningful. William and Catherine had demonstrated remarkable resilience and grace under pressure, validating her belief in their character and their fitness for the roles they would eventually assume. Her intervention had been a risk worth taking, a moment when speaking out had served both family loyalty and institutional strengthening. The sun was setting over Gatcombe Park as princess and concluded her reflections on a decision that had changed not just her own public profile, but the entire landscape of royal communications and media relations. She had broken her silence when it mattered most, stood firmly with people who deserve support, and helped demonstrate that the monarchy could adapt and evolve while maintaining its core values of service, dignity, and mutual support. The consequences would continue to unfold for years to come, but she remained certain that speaking out had been exactly the right choice at exactly the right time.